The Labour Party are already on the blame game for not winning Uxbridge. They're blaming it on ULEZ. Now, ULEZ is ultra low emission zone. I think that's what it is. And it's a policy that Sadiq Khan has supported. Of course, it's a policy to improve the environment, but I agree with some of the criticisms. ULEZ is a surcharge on drivers. Now, with our climate change policy, is that we are just trying to put the obligation of the climate on individual people. Now, when it comes to cars, those that have cars that are worse for the planet typically are working class because they can't afford to have nice electric cars or cars that are better for the planet. It's clearly a policy that needs to be reformed because I'm not against zones where we keep areas clean. But if we're going to charge £12.50 or whatever the charge is on typically working class people, that's clearly a problem. The policy itself is worthy of criticism. What I'm annoyed about is Starmer is continuing to flip-flop. Now, he's trying to blame Labour not winning the seat because Sadiq Khan supported ULEZ. And now Keir Starmer has been holding talks with Sadiq Khan saying, yes, ULEZ expansion is the reason for the Uxbridge defeat. And he's basically trying to scapegoat the problem. That would work. However, Starmer backed ULEZ. Let's have a look. And by the way, the majority of Londoners actually support this policy. This is Starmer publicly defending ULEZ on LBC. Let's take a look.
I'm sure you're aware that the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, wants to expand the ULEZ to the entirety of Greater London. There are major concerns in the care industry and others that people simply won't be able to afford to work in London. Do you support the charge?
I do support what the mayor is doing
afford
here.
to run their cars, Sir Keir.
Obviously we need to accommodate communities and those that need to travel around, but we do have a massive air pollution problem in this country, particularly here in London, and we can't keep walking around it. So we do need to take action. We need to work with communities because these are always, whenever
It needs better scrappage then, doesn't it, Sir Keir?
Well, it does need better scrappage. It needs much. One thing.
A poor old plumber who's got his van and it's the only way he can make a living. He can't go and get a 25, 30 grand van, Sir Keir.
No, I completely get that, Nick, and my sense of so many people is nobody objects to going green in the sense that we all know we've got to do our bit, it would be far better, etc. But most people say, but I just can't afford it right now. So scrappage, yes. What I'd like to see on electric vehicles is a government-backed scheme that allows you to pay for it, let's say, over a 10-year period. Because actually, if you take your 20 or 25 grand van or car, over that 10-year period, because you're not paying for fuel, it works out a lot cheaper. But up front, it's a lot of money and people can't afford it. So let's have a sensible scheme where on month, year on year, it's not more expensive. In fact, it's less. But the net result is you drive an electric vehicle and we do our bit to defeat the damage we're doing to our environment.
So that to me was actually a pretty good answer. I've got no problem if you support the policy and you can publicly defend it. I think he did a pretty good job there. Clearly, you can change the policy where, all right, we keep the idea of having ultra low emission zones, reform it in a way where people aren't out of pocket. That to me is a pretty good answer. But Starmer cares so much about winning, not about policy. It's better to deflect all blame from himself and now attack Sadiq Khan and the policy on ULEZ. This makes him look worse, though, because he can't seem to make up his mind on what he supports. It's not about the policy itself. I agree that there's legit criticisms of it, but why can't Keir Starmer just have a fucking backbone and stand up and say, I still support this policy, it just needs changing a little bit. But no, he has to blame someone else. Now, maybe the reason why Keir Starmer isn't breaking through in the target seats is potentially his own personal rating. So we've got here, stats for lefties, Starmer's approval rating. He now sits at just 26% approve and 39% disapprove. So the majority of people don't approve of Keir Starmer. This is actually Starmer's lowest net approval. Well, this is with OPM before Liz Truss became Prime Minister. So maybe instead of blaming everyone else, why don't you look at yourself? Because I remember under the last leadership, some criticisms were fair against the leadership. He's not perfect, but there were a lot of things that were, external reasons as to why Corbyn did so bad in 2019. But no, it had to be the leader. It was only the leader and that's it. Well, those same people don't seem to be saying the same thing when it comes to Keir Starmer because Starmerites are in a cult, I would say. So maybe the biggest liability for the Labour Party is Keir Starmer himself.